Right, so today we're going to look at our last topic, which is tax administration and tax planning. If you look at our syllabus, we started off with introduction to Malaysian income tax, and some of the tax administration topic are actually already covered when we did chapter 1. And then next, we had resident status, and then we calculate the chargeable income, employment income, investment income, or non-business income. And then we also calculate individual taxation, which is tax payable for individual. And then quite a long, lengthy topic where we have business taxation, okay, whereby we also look at all the business income and business deductions. And then we also covered partnership income as well as taxation of trust, estate and settlements. And then we spent a few weeks for zakat planning, whereby we look at the importance of zakat practice in Malaysia, and also zakat application with the different types of zakat. And last but not least, we're going to look at tax administration and also tax planning. I combined together tax admin and tax planning so that you can see apart from tax administration, when we talk about tax planning, so this is where all the knowledge from this taxation comes in when we are looking at the tax planning, especially when you have your clients later on. So as you all know, your senior will finish their internship end of next week. And I'm very glad to share that most of them are actually absorbed with the company that they had their internship with. So most of them kebanyakan ni memang diambil lah sebagai permanent staff. So it's very good. And so banyak lah kita tengok so bila kita nampak macam tu, it's actually something that we are proud of, but that is our plan, so that when you go for your internships, but now you're all in semester 6 already, so you ada lagi 2 semester je dekat sini, and unfortunately you have to spend your third year dekat rumah, so next semester pun maybe macam ni lagi Anyway, so yeah, that's a very good news for us to hear that most of them they, walaupun dalam keadaan macam ni, with the condition of the pandemic sekarang, banyak company yang memang tak nak orang but they manage to secure a spot in the company that they pergi internship to. So as for you, I think the choice of the company is very important. And you might want to discuss maybe with your academic advisor apa tempat nak pilih, and then nanti dia pun akan ada briefing ataupun dah ada briefing, saya tak sure. So tu je lah, so that masih lagi tak adalah kita nak kata it's very hard untuk cari kerja ke apa. Adalah, some of them they didn't apply because when you finish the internship biasanya the company tu akan open for kita kata application lah if you are interested, just fill up the forms because you will be taking in as their permanent staff. So bila permanent staff ni banyak sikit lah dia punya ni kan, because kena tolak all the EPF, so tax apa semua tu. As an intern tak perlu so they actually publish for you. Right, so for this tax administration, we're going to look at 3 types of elements whereby we have returns, assessment, and also appeals. All right, what we have done so far, we actually calculate the tax return. So that we are talking about returns and also the assessment. Kita tak tengok lagi appeal, which means actually the taxpayer can still appeal kalau ada the returns or maybe you make mistake during the filing of the tax return. All right, so as a taxpayer responsibility, we have to keep a record of not 1 year or 2 years, but 7 years. So the record must be kept because it is mentioned that we have to keep a sufficient record for 7 years and furnish reasonably accurate estimate of tax payable, especially for a business. And then for companies, they have to file the tax return within 7 months of the financial year. So for example, if the financial year ends in 31st December, So you have 7 months after 31st December tu, for example, 31st December 2020. So the company has up to July 2021 to submit the tax return. And if there is any shortfall, so they can pay by the last day of the 7th month from the financial year end. Because for company pun, just like salary individual, the tax can be paid based on monthly or biasanya monthly lah, monthly deduction. So dia dah tolak dulu, dia dah calculate the tax, and then if there is any shortfall tak cukup, so they can pay by the last day of the 7th month of the financial year tu. Alright, filings of tax return. So all companies, when we talk about companies, they must file their tax return again. Like I said, within 7 months. Ini bukan sesaja kita suka-suka kata 7 months. It is actually coming from the Act, Section 771A of the Income Tax Act. So they must file the tax return within 7 months. Walaupun dah bayar every month tu, so they have up to 7 months untuk hantar the tax return. Because the tax return must be prepared using audited accounts. So if you are familiar with the financial reporting, so bila kita tutup the account as at year end tu, the company actually has up to 3 months to make sure that the accounts have been audited so that they can prepare the tax return based on the audited accounts. So for salary individuals, the tax return must be filed not later than 30th April for each year. Okay, so these are actually the due date lah for business and also individual. So if individual ni dia ada salary je, dia tak ada business, dia tak ada, they are not just a sole proprietor, so they have to file their tax return not later than 30th April. But if for a sole proprietor, partnership and cooperative, the tax return must be filed not later than 30th June. Right, so kalau individual 30th April, kalau business ataupun individual with business, kita kata individual with business lah, not later than 30th June. Okay, what happened if you fail to submit the returns? Okay, again, it is under section 112 ni, a person who without reasonable excuse fails to submit his returns within the prescribed time or fails to give notice of his chargeability of the tax is guilty of an offence and on conviction by court is liable to a fine from 200 to 20,000, right? Or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months or both. So if you look at the news kan, adalah news kita tengok even some businessmen, the famous one, and they don't pay their tax, so they have to pay the penalty. Not only the penalty, so later nanti I will show you, they not only have to pay the penalty, you also have to pay the tax that you didn't pay, and the amount is normally double. All right, so what I have here is the different types of tax return forms. Okay, so if you go back, if you go to Lembaga Hasil website, so you can see they still maintain the different types of form. It is called form lah, walaupun kita isi online tu kan. Alright, so these are the different categories of written forms. For example, Form B is for individuals. Okay, individuals with business. So Form BE is for employment cases, which means salary individuals. BE, so B, individuals with other types of income, for example, business income or rental income. So for example, in my case, if I only have employment income, saya akan isi Form BE, Form BE lah. If I am employed, but at the same time I have business, saya adalah sole proprietor, or saya ada rental income, I will have to fill Form B, bukan BEB. So Form C is for companies, senanglah C companies, P for partnership. Alright, if you can recall, for partnership ni, the tax will be charged under their name. Setiap partners tu kita akan like what we calculate before kan, kita kira divisible income semua tu. So the partner will be taxed based on their name, but for the partnership tu, dia kena hantar juga tax return, which is under Form P tu. Walaupun each partner is taxed as an individual having a business source, right? Form T for trust, okay, trust, association, club, societies, deceased persons, estate, so they have to fill up Form T. So different form ni, they have different content lah. For example, for individuals ada relief kan, for companies tak ada relief lah, tapi dia ada deduction. So for partnership pun sama. Okay, Form T is for trust. Form M is actually for non-resident individuals receiving income derived from Malaysia. So for a non-resident individual, they don't have to fill up form B. Form B ni untuk resident sahaja. Form M untuk non-resident individuals. And form E is for employers. Alright, employers ni here we can see that this is actually directed to individuals, companies, trust or partnership, and also non-resident individuals. For employers, if you are a company and you hire staff, the employers also have to fill up form, which is called form E. So form E ni is actually to show the remuneration paid to the employees, because the lembaga hasil wants to know, for as an employer, do you actually how many employees do we have? Do you actually help them to prepare their tax file, and do the employees pay taxes? So as an employer pun sama juga, kena hantar juga form, and it is called form E. So these are the returns made by the employer. So employer, what they have to do is, okay, form E tadilah, EA or EC. So every employer under section 83 is required to prepare and submit a return. Okay, not later than 31st March. Alright, nampak tak? Tadi as a salary individual, the employee tu kena submit before 30th April, but the employer tu kena submit form E ni before 31st March. Form E ni, dalam form E ni ada tunjuk the remuneration paid to the employees, benefit in kind dia apa, bonus dia berapa, the summary given to the employee. So the employers ni dia kena submit to lembaga hasil. So what do we have in that form E ni? Okay, number of employees employed, number of employees subject to deductions. Alright, the scheduler tax deduction ni, the monthly deduction ni, tak semua yang subject to deductions lah. The number of new employees kalau ada, the number of employees who have resigned. Okay, once they resign, so kita tak boleh tolak lah the income tax dia. That's why the IRB needs to know. Number of employees who have resigned and left Malaysia. Okay, ada juga if they hire foreign worker, so they resign and they leave Malaysia. And such other particulars as may be required by the DG. So the usual details are names and personal details of each employee, amount of remuneration. Okay, this one, like I said before, the cash, the benefit in kind, the bonus, and the salary, the allowances, whatever the employee gets, that will appear in form E. All right. As an employer, once they have a new employee, right, this employer have to fill out form CP, which means whenever they have a new employee who is likely to be chargeable to tax, so the employer is required to notify the DG within 1 month from the date of commencement. Right, macam you all nantilah, like I said, just like your seniors too. Once they agree untuk kerja dekat situ as a permanent staff, so the employer nanti akan hantar pula the details to the IRB, because they if they are chargeable to tax. Alright, ini kalau ada new employee, ini kalau ada yang resign. So samalah the different form, form CP22 and CP22A untuk employee who neither an employee is about to cease to employ an employee, so employee to resign. So mesti juga submit kepada IRB stating the full name, address and the expected date of cessation of employment lah, 1 month before. That is why when you want to resign, bukan boleh angkat kaki pergi terus je. So properly, biasanya kita akan bagi 1 month or 2 months notice lah. This is actually to help the employer as well. Alright, next would be assessment. Okay, if you go back to chapter 1, topic 1, we talk about self-assessment system, whereby there is no more issuance of notice of assessment. Dulu, prior to year 2000, the IRB actually keluarkan surat dipanggil notice of assessment. Okay, this is macam something like, okay, ini surat untuk awak bayar tax, so awak kena bayar tax. So now tak ada. So non-issuance of a notice of assessment. Now the tax return furnished by the taxpayer, once you key in the masuk dalam sistem tengok e-filing tu, that would be the notice of assessment. Okay, and year of assessment, ini semua pun dah tahu, refer to year in which tax is assessed, because kita apply tax ni with the concept of pay as you earn, dapat dia bayar. Alright, for companies, limited liability partnership and also trust body, they can pay every 15th of each month, right? Due date for monthly tax. Dia tadi, like I show you, ada boleh company boleh bayar monthly tax, and the maximum that they can go is after the 7 month after their financial year end. But if they want to pay monthly tax ni, dia kena bayar by 15 of each month. Okay, tak boleh lebih daripada 15,000 lah. However, when a company first commence operation during the first basis period, contohnya, first installment will commence from the 6th month of the basis period. So no installment need to be paid if the estimated liability is less than 600 for the year. Okay, for a small company with a small revenue, so bila dia calculate profit, okay, calculate profit, okay, and then the estimated tax liability dia less than 600, so dia tak payah bayar setiap bulan, dia kena tunggu cukup setahun and then bayar. But for bigger company with bigger revenue, bigger profit, they have their estimated tax liability and they will pay every month, just like the salary individuals pay every month. Okay, tadi kita tengok responsibilities of employer. Now, what are the responsibilities as a taxpayer? Alright. So, for example, when an individual arrives in Malaysia in a calendar year and is chargeable to tax in Malaysia for that particular year, they should notify the DG that they will be chargeable within 2 months of their arrival. Okay, ini especially for companies yang hire foreign worker lah. So, bila once dia masuk, have to notify. So normally the employer akan notify lah, macam tadi kita tengok. And the responsibility to notify is applicable regardless of whether the individual is likely to be a tax resident or non-tax resident. Okay, because the resident status ni kita akan tengok based on number of days kan. So bila orang tu sampai dia, we don't know sama ada dia akan jadi tax resident ataupun tak. But still have to notify the DG. So the responsibility applies as long as the individual derives income subject to tax in Malaysia. So as an individual, for each year of assessment, individual who has chargeable income for that year shall furnish a tax return in the prescribed form lah. So for individual, it's either B or BE. Okay, and it's assigned by 30th June if he carries on a business, or by 30th April if he derives income from other non-business source of income. Okay, ini for individual B and BE. So for companies, LLP and trust, LLP is limited liability partnership and trust. So this entity shall furnish annual tax return within 7 months. Okay, again, ni macam tadi lah, dia kena furnish within 7 months. So a company is required by law to file its annual return by electronic medium or by way of electronic transmission. Maknanya buatlah macam mana pun, you still have to pay. So annual tax return must be based on accounts audited by a professional accountant. Jadi yang saya kata tadi, that is why businesses are given up to 7 months. So maksudnya dalam masa 7 bulan tu accounts sudah kena audit lah. So based on audited accounts, they calculate the tax return. Okay. And if the return is not based on audited account, contoh on management account ke, and then the state return is an incorrect return. So tak boleh hantar tax return based on unaudited accounts, mesti audit. So it is therefore imperative that the annual statutory accounts be ready in good time for the tax return to be submitted within 7 months of the close of account. So ada relation, like I said before, related to financial reporting. What if there is a change of address? Okay, every person chargeable to tax is required to notify the DG of any change of address within 3 months of the change. Ini pun tak susah, you just masuk in the system and update the information je. Duty to keep sufficient business record. Okay, ini tadi kena record kena simpan for 7 years. So when the person is late in finishing the annual return, the records must be written for 7 years after the end of year in which the return is finish. Ada juga yang lambat, but still perlukan all the 7 years punya receipt. So 7 years is not a short time, very long time. So you all belajar kat sini pun baru 3 tahun pun rasa macam dah lama kan. Ini can you imagine you have to keep for 7 years. Where the gross annual business taking exceed 150,000, the person must issue printed receipt serially numbered for every sum received from his business activity. So here we are talking about business activity. So you must be really careful with all the revenue, the expenses, and because you have to keep everything. So for persons who do not carry on a business but who are required to furnish a tax return, record must be written for 7 years. from the end of the relevant year or 7 years after the end of the year in which the return is furnished. For individual pun sama jugalah, because for individual they are entitled to personal relief kan. So personal relief especially yang memerlukan receipt tu, kena simpan lah receipt beli buku, receipt beli phone, beli komputer semua tu the one that entitled to relief tu mesti ada the proof because you remember kita buat soalan kan, ada soalan kita buat kata dia tak ada receipt, bila tak ada receipt you cannot claim, ada receipt boleh claim tapi ada receipt memang you can claim for that particular year but you still have to keep that for the next 7 years. Alright, pay on time by installments or monthly tax deduction. Okay, for a salary individual, no problem. The employer akan calculate for you and tolak setiap bulan based on your salary. So don't have to think anymore. Just that at the end of the period, which means after 30th April ataupun when you submit the tax return for that particular year, so the IRB will calculate. It's either you pay extra or you pay less. So kalau lebih dia akan refund pulangkan, kalau kurang they will notify you and you have to pay the balance too. Alright? But the taxpayer are given 30 days to settle the tax. If tax is paid beyond the 30 days, the late payment penalty of 10% is levied. And if payment is made beyond the next 60 days, there is an additional 5% penalty levied. Okay, ini ialah the penalty lah, how much percentage yang dia akan charge kalau lambat bayar. Alright, so again, employment income is subject to monthly tax deduction, okay, from the monthly emoluments. So for individual who derive income other than employment income, so the DG may estimate their tax payable based on the preceding year's tax payable, okay, gunakan previous year punya, and require them to pay the estimated tax in installments at prescribed due dates. Right, those yang ada rental income, yang ada other than employment income lah, all the business income tu. So biasanya akan based on yang previous tax return. And they also have to pay installment at prescribed due dates. So kena bayar jugalah. So if the estimated tax installment are not paid, dia nampak tak, dia estimated, kita estimate je, kita kira je dulu. That is why bila cukup tempoh setahun tu, bila kita recalculate balik, tolak all the relief apa semua, sometimes you will get refund. So if the installment are not paid within 30 days of the due date, a penalty of 10% of the amount unpaid or paid late is levied juga. Okay, ini untuk individual. Tadi untuk company Any balance of tax payable when the actual self-assessed tax is determined is payable on the due date, okay, 30th April or 30th June lah. Failing which a 10% penalty of the amount unpaid or paid late is also levied juga, okay. Nah, asyik nak bayar denda je kan, lambat sikit denda. Bayar tak cukup denda. So this is how they tax you, Not only you have to pay the tax amount, you also have to pay the penalty, Alright, for companies, LLPs and trusts, so again, they have to furnish a tax estimate to the DG not later than 30 days before the beginning of the basis period. And the tax estimate may not be less than 85% of the tax payable for the immediately preceding year of assessment. Alright, so the tax estimated will be payable in 12 equal installment. Alright, dah calculate dulu, so monthly bayar je. Starting from the second month of the basis period, and the payment of the tax installment must be made by 15 day of the calendar month. Right, for company sebelum 15 hari bulan. Untuk employee tadi tu sebelum 30 lah, sebelum cukup bulan So the tax estimate may be revised upwards or downwards in the 6 and 9 months of the basis period until the taxpayer is not required to provide any grounds or reasons for the revision. So the amount of the remaining tax installment will be adjusted accordingly. Okay. Alright, what about newly commenced company, LLP or trust? The first basis period is at least 6 months long. Ada contoh tak ada kat sini. New commence. Ini tak boleh baca lah. This is the example lah. Kalau dia commence operation, ada tarikh dia bila. And then they close first account dia bila. Okay, that is the basis period dia. SME, first year tax dia waive. Ini pun tak ada apa lah, boleh baca je lah. Alright. every person is obliged to provide information called for by the DG within the time stipulated. Okay, sometimes you submit already and then you get a call. Okay, dia kata, okay, ni ada claim untuk certain amount. Okay, can we have additional information? So whatever dia minta, kita kena bagi je lah. So if the information is not provided within the specified time or extended time, and the information relates wholly or partly to a deduction claim, the DG may disallow such deduction under section 39. Okay, 39 an allowable deduction. In the case of death, the notification of the date of death of the Act of RPGT ni set a 3-year time limit for the DG to issue assessment on the income derived by a deceased person. Alright, so kalau 3 year tu akan commence after the end of the year of assessment in which the DG is informed in writing by the executor of the death of the individual. Okay. So kita nampak macam dah mati pun nak kena bayar tax ke? No, sometimes the deceased tu ada banyak for example rental income. Rental income dia sentiasa berjalan walaupun dah mati. That is why lembaga hasil bagi 3 tahun lah untuk dia calculate balik. Calculate the assessment. That is why we have executor. So if you go back to kita buat trust settlements tu, right? So the executor tu akan notify the date of death as soon as possible in order to restrict the 3-year time limit. Okay, so for example here, Mr. AB died on 1st December 2014 and Mr. XY is the executor. So Mr. XY notified the DG regarding the death on 29 December. Nampak same month dekat sini. So bila macam ni so the DG has 3 years from the end of 2014. Dia, bila masa dia tahu, masa tu baru dia, masa tu lah startnya the 3-year period tu until 31st December 2017. So to raise any assessment or additional assessment on Mr. AB for year 2014 and or prior years. Okay. If Mr. XY ni notified the DG on 1st July 2017, nampak dah bertahun dah baru dia bagi tahu kata dah mati orang ni. So the DG would have had 3 years from the end of 2017, i.e. until 31st December 2020. Dia mesti akan ambil juga untuk 3 tahun. After 3 tahun ni barulah the harta ni ataupun the income akan jadi estate. So we can go back to topik kita yang sebelum ni lah. So selagi dia 3 tahun ni itu dikira income untuk deceased person ni. Masih lagi income dia. Dah cukup 3 tahun ni dia jadi estate. So the calculation ni akan jadi lain lah based on the executor nanti. But that is why bila dia kata dekat sini mesti akan bagi tahu as soon as possible to restrict the 3-year time limit. Kalau tak lagi lama lah kena tunggu. Alright, so again, the responsibilities of employers, so deduct the monthly tax deduction from the remuneration of each of the employees in accordance with the schedule on account of tax. Okay, so furnish an employee's return form E tadi, okay, by 31st March following the end of the relevant year containing all the required information. Prepare the annual statement of remuneration and make it available to the employees by end of February following the end of the relevant year. So, macam saya dekat sini every year bulan biasanya by February tu dalam sistem dah ada lah borang isi tu. So borang tu we need the form untuk kita isi the tax filing. Okay, right of a taxpayer right to appeal. Alright, boleh appeal. If it is submitted within 30 days of the issue of a notice of an assessment, proper form, appeal must be made in writing using the appropriate form which is form Q. And the grounds for making an appeal must be stated kenapa nak appeal. Right, so this is appeal procedure flow chart. So dalam ni ada NA is notice of assessment, DG lah. SC is Special Commissioner of Income Tax. So kalau tak puas hati ada benda yang tak kena so can appeal within 30 days. Okay. So dalam ni this is the process lah. Kalau ada case forward to SC less than 6 months, forward ke in the agreement, proposal rejected, appeal lagi. Or maybe ada oral agreement or written agreement, okay, revise lagi. Kalau nak appeal lah appeal untuk this is the appeal procedure. So appeal dia ada banyak lah. Dia kalau dia accept, okay, accept. Kalau dissatisfied, okay, boleh appeal ini. These are the process yang kena go through. Alright, what about appeal on the relief application for error or mistake? Okay, salah kira, salah letak relief ataupun salah lah kiranya ada mistake dekat situ. So again apply, so dekat sini kita bracketkan the branches which means for every taxpayer ni, your file ni ada dekat salah satu, kita kata branch lah, dia register dekat mana your file tu. I think macam tax file dekat sini for UPSI staff ni semua file tu ada dekat Cawangan Teluk Intan misalnya. So dia memang simpan ikut branch lah. So if there is an error or mistake, you can apply to the DJIR, the branch lah, the branch dekat mana file kita tu ada, and then request untuk forward ke branch juga and dispute all the resolution lah, ada dispute resolution department. So ini kalau ada error or mistake, yang ini tadi appeal tak bayar lah, bayar lambat lah apa semua kan. So kat sini lah appeal dia. We're talking about millions tak ada lagi RM3 punya cerita. So here kalau ada salah for error or mistake, and then ini teruslah pergi ke branch where the file is. Okay, but how can a person appeal on the relief application for error or mistake ni? Okay, satu, the person has paid tax. Cukai dah kena bayar lah, dia dah kena bayar. Dia tak ada kira-kira tax dia belum bayar tapi dia nak appeal no. So the person alleged that assessment is excessive by reason of an error or mistake made by them. Okay, salah kira, terlalu bayar tax terlalu banyak sebab ada info yang salah dekat situ. Or the assessment has not become final and conclusive. The person applies for relief within 5 years of the end of the year of assessment within which the assessment was made. So the application procedure ni similar to an appeal, except that the time limits differ, time limit differ slightly different lah. So no provision for extent of the time limit for appeals. Right, so these are the penalties yang tadi kita tengok penalty tu. Right, so if you fail to furnish a written or give notice of chargeability under section 112, fine 200 up to 20,000 or jail 6 months or both, and penalty 3 times the amount of, ni kalau prosecution lah, pergi court semua or no prosecution, okay salah dia tak prosecute you, you have to pay penalty 3 times the amount of tax. Nampak kejam tak? Let's say you tak bayar tax 600, the penalty would be 600 times 3. Hantar info salah, incorrect returns. If prosecuted, memang salah, memang purposely buat, so fine 1,000 to 10,000 and penalty 2 times the amount of tax under charge. No prosecution, penalty equals the amount of tax under charge. Okay, kalau terkurang lah so kena bayar lah amount yang terkurang tu. Willful evasion of tax. Okay, sengaja tak nak bayar, lari dari bayar tax. Fine 1,000 to 20,000 or jail 3 years or both, and penalty 3 times the amount of tax under charge. Let's say lari tak bayar tax, so tax yang tak bayar tu ada 20,000 yang tak bayar, so darablah dengan 3 the penalty would be 20,000 times 3. Leaving Malaysia without paying tax. Fine 200 up to 20,000 or jail 6 months or both. Obstruction of office, so these are the fine lah. Breach of confidence or offence by officials, fine not more than 20,000, jail 3 years or both. So these are the penalties. Alright, so for tax ni kita juga ada what we call a tax audit and investigation. So under the self-assessment system ni, because under self-assessment, remember kita tak diberi notice of assessment, so kita calculate tax kita sendiri based on our income, based on our tax relief, based on rebate, kita kira sendiri. So when we do it ourselves, so under this self-assessment system ni, sometimes the IRB will conduct tax auditing, they call it tax desk audit or field audit. To encourage voluntary compliance with tax law, nak tengok betul tak kita buat. Okay. Sometimes ada dia nak visit lah, dia nak visit the company, dia nak visit the employer. Pre-schedule and due notice is given to the taxpayer to prepare and make available the relevant records and documents for examination by the IRB. Ni berdebar lah kalau tiba-tiba company tu dapat call kan, okay terima kasih kita nak datang check. Okay, bila nak datang check, which means dia nak tengok lah all the relevant records semua. But normally the visit ni akan dia bagi tahu dululah this is for desk audit or field audit, nak pergi tengok je. On the other hand, when we talk about tax investigation, investigate kan, ada suppress element kat sini, and biasanya akan pergi rate lah. Dia tak ada bagi tahu dah, ini call bagi tahu kami nak pergi bulan depan, bla 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 kan. This one tak ada. Oh, orang ni tak bayar tax, so jom kita pergi surprise. Then pergilah searching multiple premise, tengok aktiviti dia. Kalau dia kata okay business dia jual baju, dia boleh pergi tengok jual benda lain juga, you know, so things like that. So investigation for taxpayer activities and resident for evidence that would otherwise not be disclosed. So especially those yang suka share kekayaan dekat social media tu kan. Sometimes itu pun will flag cakap tengok dia ni artis sosok kuku dia nampak kan, tapi kereta sampai 3 besar-besar, rumah sampai 3, asyik beli rumah, tunjuk gambar beli rumah kan. Itu will kita kata ada red flag lah. So some dekat tax ini pun dia ada research team tau. Dia jangan ingat dia duduk sesaja, dia ada investigation team juga. So inilah kerja dia orang and some are actually reported by orang by the public, by neighbours so kalau ada report dia akan conduct research. Okay, so tax investigation normally may unravel some element of fraud, willful default or negligence which may render it criminal in nature. Kita tengoklah sama ada dia tak tahulah kena bayar tax ke. Okay, so negligence tak tahu ataupun willful default memang sengaja nak lari daripada bayar so those are actually coming under tax investigation lah. So the period covered ni may exceed the 5 years if there is evidence suggesting fraud, willful default or negligence. Katakan dia pergi investigate tahun 2020, dia akan go back to sampai tahun 2015 macam tu ataupun maybe more lagi, pergi lagi ke belakang tengok mana lagi kekayaan dia or the amount of tax yang dia memang tak pernah bayar so that is under tax audit and investigation. Any questions tak for tax administration ni? So untuk yang tax admin and tax audit semua ni, yang ni kalau ikutkan tak ada apa lah dia banyak bergantung pada all the sections lah the penalty apa semua tu. Dia memang subject to law lah, dia tak ada benda-benda subjektif dekat situ, semua sangat objektif the penalty apa semua ada dah dia punya act dia. But this one tak for tax planning ni very subjective depending on the client's needs ataupun and also your knowledge so that is why it is very important for you as a tax planner, kita boleh kata tax planner, you want to help the client or even to help yourself, you should know so sebab ni bila self-assessment ni kita kena tahulah how to compute tax and all the compliance procedures along with the penalties for variety of offences. Right, so as a financial planner who wants to master tax planning, okay, so that you can save some financial resources in a legal and appropriate sense for the client. So if you know more, it's very good for tax planning ideas. So it can be done properly when you understand the tax law. Ni kita pun tak tahu macam nak advise orang kan. So you need to understand, okay, how to do the tax planning. Kita bukan nak encourage the client untuk lari daripada bayar tax tak That is why we can apply the concept of maybe tax avoidance kalau nak katakan. So there are certain loopholes in the tax calculation ni. Kita pun dah tahu, kita tengok when we did our, macam kita belajar personal relief, so we know apa type of relief yang as an individual are entitled to And for business juga, we have gone through all the business deductions, all the allowable deductions. Some they do not know that they can claim for that deductions, capital allowance, some they do not know. So this is where all your tax knowledge comes in order for you to help the client. It's either individual clients or corporate clients. Because now maybe you tak berapa, I know this semester you all ambil banyak modul kan, you have zakat, you have retirement planning, you have estate planning. So all this information ni is very crucial nanti bila you do your internship nanti because some of your seniors tu dia memang pergi buat full-fledged financial planning tau. When I say full-fledged maksudnya semua knowledge dah kena ada dah, insurance, tax, retirement, estate semua knowledge dah kena ada dah. And tak naklah pergi intern, alamak yang ni tak faham, yang ni tak tahu, yang ni tak ingat kan. So bila kita tanya, even yang my student yang saya observe tu pun, alamak tu lah doktor, macam lupa sikit lah nak kena tengok dalam buku ni apa. So all this, especially what you have in this semester memang will definitely helps you a lot lah nanti when you go to for your internship nanti. Some of them ada yang memang fokus some buat insurance je, or some buat takaful je, some buat unit trust je, so it depends but for some yang memang pergi kepada full-fledged ni memang buat semua daripada A sampai Z. Ada juga some yang tak deal dengan klien tapi deal dengan provider. Okay, so you should know juga because you tahu kita macam you dah belajar insurance kan, all the provider ada kita ada Zurich lah, kita ada Etika untuk general insurance, dan kita ada apa ni, Allianz lah, you know. So all these provider ni, so some of your seniors, they are actually they're not involved directly with the client, they involved dengan provider. So nanti provider ni minta dia buka sistem, you have to key in. So nak key in, you have to know, you have to compute, especially you kena buat, sometimes kena buat quotation, tengok umur berapa, smoking or not, ada penyakit ke tak. So all this information ni will come in handy lah if you understand, if you really understand what you have done so far. So it's a very, because for me, apa yang you belajar is actually a life skill, skill yang tak semua orang ada. So skill is not only a life skill, and you can make money out of it. So yang paling penting. Right, anyway, so when we talk about tax planning, just want to show you, because I tak sure group ni or group lagi satu did assignments on tax avoidance and also tax evasion ni kan. So those yang dah buat ni understand lah what is tax evasion and tax avoidance. So for tax evasion ni, it is actually illegal. They want to minimize the tax liability tapi through fraudulent techniques. Okay, dia menipu, deliberate understatement of taxable income. Okay, or inflating expenses. For example, as a business, you have certain amount of revenue, tapi you tak report semua. Because you know you have with higher revenue, that will result in higher profit. So higher profit will result in higher tax liability. Nampak tak the relationship tu kan? So what are they trying to do is that one of them is to understate their income. Okay, income dia 1 million, dia kurangkan, dia buatlah something so that lagi dia report 500,000, another 500 ni dia pergi report tempat lain. Dia letak itu sebagai asset ke apa, instead of report sebagai revenue. Or inflating expenses. Okay, belanja tambah banyak, or inflate all the expenses. For example, I'm not sure whether you all ingat case ni ataupun tidak. Ada, I think few years back kot, alamak, siapa nama perempuan tu? Vivi Yusof. So the business dia tu, bila orang tengok balik tu, wow, the expenses sangat banyak, especially for director's remuneration. Dia director, that is her own company. As a director, dia boleh bayar gaji untuk diri sendiri kan, director's remuneration. So bayar director's remuneration lah, all the remuneration pelik lah, semua pergi dekat situ. End up dengan tak make profit pun. Tapi kita nampak macam wow, macam hebatnya company ni, tapi tak make profit. How come? Sebab dia inflate expenses. So bila dia inflate expenses, and then the company pun, Bumi Putra company, they have a lot of incentives. Itu satu lagi lah. Cumanya saya tak ada letak dia kat kategori mana lah, kategori avoidance or kategori evasion, but the issue masa tu is people say that the company actually inflate their expenses. Bila dia inflate expenses, dia tak make profit pun. Bila tak make profit, kena bayar tax tak lah kan. Tapi sebenarnya revenue dia sangat banyak, expenses dia pun banyak because dia inflate bayar sana bayar sini, tapi end up pergi kepada diri sendiri juga. Okay, so when we talk about tax evasion ni, it is actually unlawful attempt to reduce one's tax burden. So it's done with the motive of showing fewer profits, okay, nampak, in order to avoid tax burden. So fewer profits ni sama ada you reducekan your revenue and you naikkan the expenses, kan? Because you know in accounting kita ada revenue, kita akan minus expenses, kita akan dapat profit. So profit ni akan kita darab dengan tax. So kalau ini dia turun, ini dia naik, profit tak adalah kena bayar tax. So it involves illegal practices such as making false statements, hiding relevant documents, not maintaining complete records of the transactions, concealment of income, overstatement of tax credit, or presenting personal expenses as business expenses. Okay, ini pun ada juga lah. Personal expenses jadi business expenses. So tax evasion is a crime for which the excess could be punished under the law. Tadi kan yang penalty willful evasion tadi, so that is the penalty dia lah. So the next one we have tax avoidance. Tax avoidance ni legal, legal method to minimize tax liability. Use the tax regime in a single territory for one's personal benefits to decrease one's tax burden. So the difference is that tax avoiders ni they take unfair advantage of the shortcomings in the tax rule, okay, by finding ways to avoid the payment of tax within the limits of the law. Ni beza dia lah. Dia masih lagi ikut undang-undang tapi ada benda yang dia boleh elak, dia elak lah. So it can be done by adjusting the accounts in such a manner that there will be no violation of tax rules. So tax avoidance is lawful, but in some cases it could come in the category of crime. Kata lajak sikit dah masuk kategori tax evasion. Next one is tax planning. Okay, tax planning, like I said, ini pun subjective process. Process of analysing one's financial situation efficiently. So this is where your skill comes in, to reduce one's tax liability. So it involves planning one's income in a legal manner to avail various exemptions and deductions. So it involves applying various advantageous provisions which are legal and entitled the assessee to avail the benefit of deductions, credit, kita ada tax credit, concessions, incentives, rebates, exemptions. Pernah you belajar kan ada banyak jenis exemptions lah, business deduction. So tax planning is an honest approach of applying the provisions which comes with the framework of taxation law. Okay. So tak payah nak tipu pun still boleh with the tax planning is you can still manage to reduce the tax liability. Okay, a table just to show you the difference between the three. So tax evasion illegal, avoidance and planning legal. So ni boleh baca lah, this is the summary of what we have discussed so far. Because the objective ni, the paling penting kita nak tengok the objective ni. Walaupun semua motif is memang nak reduce the tax kan, tapi yang ni tax evasion conceal. Tax avoidance ni dodging tax, so tax planning to save tax. And for tax planning ni is actually a plan trying to reduce the liability of tax by applying the provision and moral of law. Tak ada main tipu lah dekat sini. Alright, the IRB also provides 4 compliance strategies. Okay, how to make sure that the taxpayer actually pay their tax. So what they have strategized is actually one of them is to provide positive assistance for compliance through taxpayer education and support. Okay, dia ada buat roadshow, dia ada bagi posters. So reduce opportunities for non-compliance through increased compliance checks. Okay, nak check juga yang tadi ada visit tadi tu. Provide these incentives for non-compliance through enforcement and also deter non-compliance through well-publicized criminal prosecution. Okay, name and shame. Okay, ni orang-orang yang tak bayar apa semua tu kan. So one of the program yang undertaken by the IRB is to educate the general public on the importance of complying with tax law and regulations. Okay. Alright, so this is what we're interested in, tax planning for individuals. Alright, so for example, later on when you have your own client, kita nak tengok lah, how can we advise them? How can you advise them? So for example, kita buat, okay, let's say this person dia ada employment income sahaja, right? Salary individual with only employment income. Tapi employment income dia, we are not talking about gaji yang sikit-sikit ni, we are talking about yang 200,000 per annum ni, okay? Nampak tak? So what you can suggest is that, but again, when we talk about salary package ni, we need cooperation from the employer. Right? For example, bagi you example dekat sini, katakanlah this person ni gaji dia 200,000 per annum. Kita we're talking about per annum sekarang. Cash. Okay. So ini yang dia dapat dari company dia. Tak ada benefit in kind, tak ada apalah. So from this amount, inilah yang dia kena bayar tax. Okay. Tak ada apa dekat sini, tak ada kereta, tak ada apalah, semua pun tak ada. Okay, what we can suggest is with the cooperation of the employer lah. Because you have to convince the employee untuk convince the employer juga kan. So katakanlah, okay, dia boleh bagi, reducekan the cash portion, okay, 120,000 dia cash per annum ni. Ini dia cash. Okay, tapi dia dapat car, dia dapat accommodation. Dia dapat apa lagi benefit kita boleh bagi dia? Bukan dengan accommodation je lah, kita bagi car dengan accommodation. So kita tahu kalau car, dia dapat car, kita boleh tolak 3,000. Apa ni? Okay, so for example for car, okay, ini yang dia boleh tolak kan. For tolak pula the income dia. So for car, for accommodation, katakanlah kita bagi Kalau car 4,800. And then katakan ada accommodation, dia ada furniture kan. Furniture 3,600. And also accommodation, kira lah 30% of 120,000 tu dia dapat 120. So ini akan jadi lower than this figure nanti. So bila dekat sini low, tolak dengan relief, end up dengan dia akan bayar tax yang lebih low compared to yang ni lah. Kalau yang ni kita kata berapa tax yang nak kira kat sini because you can compute the tax savings kalau macam ni in this case. That is why we come up with employee salary package ni. Okay, but mesti ada cooperation of the employer. So maybe structure the package with ini cadangannya lah macam ni lah lower cash remuneration. Sekarang cash dia dapat 200,000 tapi tak ada apa-apa dah. So, terus kena bayar tax daripada sini, tolak lah relief apa semua kan. So lower cash remuneration which means okay from 200 kita turunkan jadi 120,000 cash tapi dia ada kereta, dia ada rumah, fully furnished rumah dia. Contohnya So income ni bila tambah-tambah ni akan tolak dengan relief, so akan ada certain amount of tax savings. Depends lah kalau dia kata tak nak kereta, tak nak rumah, dia nak cash je. So up to the client lah kan. Cuma we can advise them that this is what they can do. Okay. Lower cash remuneration and higher benefit in kind. Okay, so that the tax payable would be much lower. So as an employer pun they need to know lah sebab kalau employer katakan dia bagi accommodation, dia yang bayar rental tu. So rental untuk employer is a deduction deductible expenses. So employer ni pun boleh tolak juga deduction. And then car benefit pun sama juga, dia bagi kereta dekat employee, but the kereta in some cases the car belongs to the employer. So bila dia ada kereta, dia ada motor vehicle, jangan lupa untuk kereta ni company akan boleh claim capital allowance. So nampak tak, when you know how these things work, so you can advise. So lower cash remuneration, ada higher benefit in kind that will result in a tax savings. So dapat barang lagi untung daripada dapat cash. Contohnya macam itulah. But we need the cooperation of the employer. Alright, and then reliefs available. Okay, some they do not know. So for example, if they are the policy holders of many insurance, so they kena tahulah dalam insurance tu insurance apa, life insurance, medical insurance, education, and the EPF. So for the relief, EPF combine dengan life kan ada certain maximum amount. So this is what you have to advise. And then if the person ni, if the individual dia ada business dia boleh claim capital allowance, right? Because syarat untuk claim capital allowance ni mesti ada business. And then again, joint or separate assessment. Ini pun kita dah tengok last time when we calculate our individual ataupun personal tax. So we want to know, alright, what to advise. Katakanlah, okay, this is husband and wife. Husband dia jadi income, wife tak ada income. So you can advise for, okay, kalau macam ni, ambil lah joint assessment. Because the income tu lagi sikit. Or both kerja, income pun lebih kurang, okay, go for separate assessment. Because end of the day, apa yang kita nak cuba buat ialah for all this tax planning ni, the ultimate objective is to reduce the tax liability. Kita bukan nak dibayar tax yang tinggi, kita nak dibayar tax yang rendah, but again within the law. Ini bukan tipu or apa. You can still help them to plan because of this knowledge that you have ni, the salary package, the relief, joint or separate assessment. Alright, what about tax planning for companies? Okay, again, for companies, kita perlu tahulah that when we have tax losses, it can be carried forward. So katakanlah this year untung, tapi tahun lepas rugi, so you can carry the tax loss too, that will reduce your profit for this year. So tax pun akan jadi lower. Dia bukan kira loss, habis tahun lepas loss, okay, rugilah tahun lepas, setahun ni kira yang baru. Tak, so if you don't know, you tak bring forward the tax loss tu. But if you know, you will bring the tax loss from last year tu, datang bawa masuk this year, so the income would be lower and eventually the tax paid will be lower as well. So capital allowances, sama juga lah. Capital allowance tu masa kita buat tu motor vehicle ada kan dia punya calculation dia. And then untuk machinery apa semua tu ada calculation dia. So some if they are a small business, maybe they tak aware, maybe they tak tahu. So this is where you will come and help them. Investment incentive, ada banyak sangat incentive. And incentive ni biasanya dia ikut trend. So kena ni lah, kena aware lah. And then the income tax pun biasanya dia akan bagi training lah pada tax agent, dia buat talks, dia buat training to share the knowledge with the tax agent ni, so that as a tax agent you can share pula with the client. Okay, bad debts and also allowable and non-allowable expenses. Ni business deduction kan. Kita ada tengok all the allowable and non-allowable expenses. If you do not know, then you don't know how to advise. Dia dekat sini. So untuk bad debts pun tadi, if they are entitled for the bad debt and specific provision tu, ini pun ialah allowable. So because for companies ni, if you go to deductions kan yang kita buat last time tu memang ada sangat banyak. So memang kena tengok lah what are the allowable deductions. Oh, hampir dah ada soalan je. Can you try these 3 questions? Right, what is the answer for question 1? A, B, C or D?
C.
C, alright. Number 1, C, 7 months for companies. Number 2?
B. B.
B. Setuju semua? So monthly tax installment for a company, LLP and trust body or partnership 15th of each month, B. Number 3, tax planning is
E.
A, B, C, D. Baca betul-betul tax planning ni.
D.
D.
B.
The art of dodging tax without breaking the law. Kan? Tadi ingat tak dalam table tadi ada word dodging tu dekat mana? Dodging tu for tax avoidance tadi kan? Management of finance for payment of tax, assessing the advanced tax liability to pay tax in time. Bukan juga Concealment of income lagi, bukan? So the answer is D. Structuring tax affairs lawfully to give rise to minimum tax liability. Nak kurangkan tax tadi. Okay. Jawapan dia option sama je A, B, C, D dia, but number 4 is for tax avoidance, number 5 is for tax evasion. So number 4, right, tax avoidance is A, the art of dodging tax without breaking the law. And tax evasion is mana satu? Number 4 tu saya dah bagi dah A Number 5?
C.
Number 5 C. Setuju semua Number 5 is, tax evasion is concealment of income Alright, I think that's all untuk topik ni sikit je. As promised, memang sikit je, so 1 hour je. But I want to go through with you about our final assessment final exam kita. So I believe semua orang dah tengok date that would be on the 1st of July 2021. Kita akan start in the morning 9 AM and I plan for a 6 hour ke 5 hours Saya lupa lah nak letak berapa jam. Okay, 5 hours. Alright, so we will start at 9. Question will be posted in my guru so I really hope that untuk minggu tu my guru tak ada apa-apa problem lah for the final assessment ni so question will be posted there and you have to upload your answer pun dekat situ juga kita guna my guru for our final assessment so saya tak guna Google Classroom lah. The last Google Classroom would be last week's quiz je so dah tak ada, kita tak pakai assessment dekat Google Classroom dah. So for your final assessment, it will be a 5-hour exam with 5 questions. Alright, so 20 marks each untuk 5 questions tu. And that would be short answer and also short essay lah for the 5 questions tu, tak ada multiple choice. And topics covered, I think if you go back to our exercises yang kita dah buat sebelum ni so macam chapter 1 tu all the theory lah. And then kita ada resident status. I think resident status yang saya tak masukkan for the final exam resident status tak ada. Because it's already tested in midterm, so resident status tak ada. So the next topic yang kita buat is chargeable income lah the calculation of chargeable income for individual, termasuklah all the personal relief semua tu. And then employment income pun kita ada buat banyak exercise for employment income daripada section 4B sampailah section 4F tu. And then apa lagi non-business income, kita ada rental apa semua tu, right? Rental, dividend, royalty. Okay, section 4C and D, right? For employment, kita buat section 13.1, 13.1A until E tu. Non-business income, and then kalau we tengok the performa, kita ada computation of individual taxation. Tapi the computation tu akan masuk sekali lah. Because you have to compute up to tax payable. Next, kita buat business taxation yang soalan panjang tu ada business deduction apa semua tu. And then partnership. Okay, so ni all these are covered in your final exam nanti. Kita ada trust, estate and settlement and also zakat. Tapi trust, I think trust tu soalan dia tak banyak kot. Because kita tak ada buat calculation sangat for trust. And zakat. Okay, zakat kita baru buat last week je, zakat applications tu, all the different types of zakat. And yang ni lah, tax administration ni So your assessment for this subject, macam saya dah bagi tahu hari tu 60% coursework, very simple calculation, 60% tu datang from 20% midterm exam, 20% quiz and tutorials, and 20% your group assignment. Okay, and your final assessment would be 40% nanti. So please, especially those of you who have missed the quizzes, sebab ada yang banyak juga quiz yang miss, so you lost marks dekat situ. And the group assignment, some of you are so excellent, so markah untuk group assignment quite high. Tapi ada juga group yang, but I still consider your group assignments mark quite high lah. Because for 20% tu, I take 10% from your report and 10% from the video. So altogether 20% and all of you did quite well untuk your group assignment but takkanlah nak bergantung dekat markah assignment je kan. Especially quizzes lah because some of you miss quite a lot of quizzes and also tutorial. tutorial yang dalam Google Classroom tu memang saya tak return ada yang saya tak return, but I take as, and some ada yang kita buat as attendance kan. So untuk next week kita dah tak ada kelas, but if you need time for revision next week, saya available insyaAllah next week masih lagi available lah if you need time, or during revision week pun, if you need maybe in group, small group, 2-3 orang rasa nak discuss or nak discuss something or nak ask questions you can let me know. So kita boleh je nak buat session macam ni for maybe 15-20 minutes lah if you need lah. Kalau tak perlu tak apa but for next week memang kita dah tak ada kelas lah, so today will be our last class. And apa lagi for your final assessment nanti, please upload the answer in PDF form kalau hantar bentuk gambar saya nak marking susah. So please scan your jawapan tu, or if you type lagi senang lah convert to PDF and submit je. So you can type and also use your handwriting, mana-mana pun saya terima untuk kali ni, and upload your answer in PDF form. And again, do not forget to upload together the declaration form. Macam last semester ada juga yang dah habis exam dah lepas baru teringat nak hantar. You have to submit together. Maknanya you have to submit 2 files. Saya tak nak your exam nanti hantar banyak file satu orang satu file cukup. You merge all the answers into one file. Tak naklah 5 soalan ada 5 file nanti kan. Very hard for me to mark nanti. But you have to upload 2 files lah. Satu declaration form yang will be shared with you masa saya upload soalan nanti. And also your answer. Okay. And please answer in English. Kita belajar English semua so I don't want answer in Malay lah. So please answer in English. Ada soalan apa-apa tak? Any questions? So the notes semua I think enough already dalam My Guru juga. But if you need extra information, you can always go to Lembaga Hasil website. Ada macam-macam dekat dalam tu. And I also shared, I think earlier I already shared the text booklet tu. That will also helpful for you to read. Dalam tu ada juga macam-macam juga lah to top up the notes that I share with you. Alright.
Doktor, kalau untuk final, boleh
Hmm.
handwriting dengan typing tak?
Boleh.
Okay.
So maybe untuk calculation you rasa susah nak type kan, so you want to tulis tangan, so up to you.
Doktor.
Dengan syarat itulah all the files tu must be converted into PDF lah, jangan hantar image saya nak mark, nanti saya pula kena convert. So I really hope that kita tak ada problem with My Guru lah during that final assessment week tu. Alright, so if tak ada soalan lagi tak? So insyaAllah for next week, if you need revision ke apa, you can let me know, then kita boleh buat session macam ni lah. I think my calendar is still free kot untuk next week. So kalau tak, because 1st of July tu considered second week dah kan? Is it first week? First week. Alright, so kalau tak ada apa-apa, thank you very much and all the best for your final exam.